Hey guys, how's it going for you? Just went out for a walk and thought I would talk about CSIS. David Vigneault has come out and for the first time in 3 years, right, has come out and made a speech where he has talked about specifically China and Russia. And what's interesting about CSIS doing this is that it's very rare for them to explicitly state who the enemies are in the unfolding struggle, right? And it's very interesting for David Vigneault to come out at all. And of course, what he has done is just fueled the sort of xenophobic, racist, McCarthyian style narrative that is required to continue asserting American dominance on the world stage. And it's worth beginning this kind of video by saying explicitly, like, we are the bad guys on the world stage. I don't think it can be argued. Like, take a look at what we've done in Yemen, for goodness sakes. Like, we are selling weapons. We're still selling weapons, even after the Biden administration has announced that they are going to stop selling weapons and providing support for the ongoing genocide and famine in Yemen, perpetuated by proxy through Saudi Arabia. We are still selling weapons. Jagmeet Singh has, of course, asked that we stop, has put forward that we should probably stop that, but it's doubtful that we will, because this is how the West grifts their local populaces, right? Like, if Biden says we're going to stop selling weapons, well, then the Europeans and the Canadians just keep it up, right? Because we are closely allied with the United States. That's our allegiance for various reasons. One of them being that the United States is the largest military on the planet by a enormous, wide sweeping extent. So once you come to the realization and accept the truthful reality that the Americans are essentially what the Nazis were on the global stage, right? They are the aggressors in an ongoing, unfolding world war, which the difference, of course, being that there doesn't look to be any reprieve. There doesn't look to be any saviors in the story, right? Like, that the Americans just come in, they destroy what they want, they enslave who they want, and they steal whatever resources they want. And that's the American story on the world stage, and that's our closest ally. So once you accept that, then you come to see and you realize that David Vigneault and CSIS are essentially the spy apparatus of a fascist regime, right? That they come out and they say, oh, the Russians and the Chinese, they're out to get us, and they're spying on us, and they're going to steal our tech and all of this kind of stuff. It's not much different than the spies, the German spies, saying the same things of the British or the Americans even, right, during World War II. So what is interesting is that it's being explicitly stated by CSIS. And their primary goal, remember, like, they're completely aligned with the CIA in their objectives of confusing and distorting the populace, right? That these organizations work for capital, they work for capitalist power structures, and their primary objective is to maintain the power of capital, right? And so the way that they're going to maintain the capitalist power structure is through confusion, right? To create narratives that play to the most xenophobic and sort of tribal aspects of humanity in order to foster discontent, not only between Canada and China or Canada and Russia, but also between Chinese groups in Canada, right? Because if we're infighting amongst one another, and if we're constantly at each other's throats over these sort of xenophobic accusations and fear-mongering, then we're not actually paying attention to who we should be paying attention to, which is the sociopathic capitalist class, which is interested in destroying all of us, enslaving all of us, and stealing all the resources for themselves. That's the goal of the capitalist class, of which there can be no doubt. So, the most interesting thought experiment, or the most interesting thing to pay attention to in the midst of this, is to ask yourself, okay, so let's say that the Chinese and the Russians are actually spying on us and are actually interested in taking our tech, or are actually interested in this, that, or the other thing. Everything that CSIS, an organization known for its lying and is designed to lie to the Canadian populace on behalf of capital. Let's say that that is indeed what they are doing. Well, yeah, like, do you expect them not to? Right? Like, we are allied to a large-scale terror organization in the United States. Like, you don't expect other powerful nations or other nations who have any amount of influence on the world stage, you don't expect them to be interested in what we are doing. You don't expect them to try to get people involved in our inner structures so that they can protect themselves. Like, I mean, you'd be crazy to think that they're not going to do that. And I also think you'd be a bit crazy to think that this is necessarily a bad thing to do. Like, if the Americans could, they would go into China and enslave the population and destroy the country, right? They've done it many times to many different countries. Like, China, they have lamented the loss of China, what they call the loss of China, because there was a period in American history where they considered China to be owned by America, right? And so they absolutely would love to be able to go into China, bomb the place to hell, destroy everything, enslave its population, steal its resources for itself, right? That's how America operates. That's what America does. And so if you were in this position where there is an advancing aggressive force that has shown repeatedly over and over and over again that it is completely willing to destroy nations, yeah, are you going to send some people over there and maybe have a look? Right, yeah, of course you are. And this framing, the framing of it, of course, which is going to be another sort of McCarthyian style scandal. The framing of it, of course, is that, oh, the Chinese, they're evil, they have torture chambers, and just all the standard garbage stuff that you'll read in the National Post, right? Just completely obfuscating and completely distorting reality and what is actually going on. And it is likely true that the Russians and the Chinese have sent spies over in order to see what's going on and in order to see, I mean, and we're doing the same to them. There's no doubt about that, right? Like, as if we are not also sending spies over, right? As if we are not also involved in espionage, both state-sponsored espionage as well as corporate espionage. Like, of course we are. That's, like, pretty obvious. The difference being, of course, that an organization like CSIS and the CIA will claim to be the good guys while destroying countless nations and stealing their resources. That, oh, that's being done for the greater good, right? That, oh, capitalism increases the wealth of, people. We're told, of course, as long as you don't count the victims, right? Which, I mean, capitalists don't, right? Capitalists are largely white supremacists who are completely happy with the idea of destroying places like Yemen, Oman, destroying places like Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, right? They're completely fine with that. These places are filled with brown people. Who cares, right? You can do what you want. And besides, America owns them anyway, right? So when I see a report like this come out, it, It's one thing for CSIS to come out and actually say, like, hey, they're state-level kind of people who are interacting with our government. But it's quite another to actually have them completely point out the Chinese and completely point to the Russians, right? To single them out. As if everybody's not doing this to everybody. And what that tells me is that the Americans, along with Canadians and likely the Europeans, are setting the table for a major conflict between these forces, right? Capitalists can't resolve anything except through warfare and genocide, right? That's how they resolve conflicts. Just take a look at the history of America, for goodness sakes. Like, Americans don't resolve anything except through global war, right? Like, World War II was fought between capitalist nations. And if the Americans have their way at it, they are going to do the same thing in Russia, and they are going to do the same thing in China, right? They don't care about the populaces there. They want domination and they want control. And right now, the wrinkle in all of this, from the American perspective, of course, is that there are nuclear bombs in play. Nuclear bombs make it so that you can't actually invade, like, the Chinese mainland, right? Like, you can't actually do that. But if... and here's where things get really scary and really weird on a technological level. Like, let's say the Americans, because the Americans are investing heavily in what they call a space force, right? But what this is it's anti-nuclear deterrence, right? Imagine a robotic satellite army that's capable of knocking missiles out of the sky, right? Well, you can just start nuking China. Like, you can just start blowing it up. China launches nukes, you knock them out, right? And, like, if Detroit gets hit, who cares, right? The idea that the leadership, the corporate leadership of the capitalists in America actually care about their own citizens, like, they don't. They don't at all. They'll happily watch one of these cities get destroyed if it means that they get to win, right? And when CSIS comes out and points to the Chinese or points to the Russians, like, get ready for the propaganda, right? Get ready for the propaganda, because it's coming. Like, you thought that the xenophobia and the sinophobia was bad before, like, now that CSIS has essentially denounced these nations, it's just going to ramp right up, right? The war machine is going to start pounding, and the liberals, who are completely spineless and aren't interested at all in standing up to the Americans for any kind of moral truth or any kind of thing, are just going to go right along lockstep. If the Americans tell them to sell weapons to anybody, they'll do it, right? And what CSIS is really banking on is that you are on their side, right? I am not. Like, I think that CSIS is pretty much on the same level as the CIA, which is essentially a Nazi propaganda outlet, like, on that same kind of level. They're not literally Nazis, but, like, they're the villains of the story, certainly. Like, they're not good. They're definitely not working for the interests of the populace, right? Their interests lie strictly with capitalists and corporate power, and that's where they're going to report from, and that's what they're going to speak from, right? And if the choice comes between actually helping members of the populace out or enriching the capitalist class, they'll ally themselves with the capitalists. So they're not your friends. They're not here to help you. And when you read an article like this come out of CSIS, you should be very skeptical of it, and you should be very afraid of what is to come, because they're setting the table for some kind of global conflagration, right? They're setting the table for some kind of large-scale war if they're starting to be that open and that flagrant about it. Okay, this will be the end of me. Hey, hit that like button. Yep, right there. Share button right beside it. Doink, 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 doink. Send it around to your friends, send it around to your neighbors, right? We are living in the most ridiculous period of time, and it's just going to get more and more ridiculous as time goes forward, unless we organize, unionize, and do something about it. Yeah. Hey, guys, I just lost my job because capitalists are sociopaths, so throw $1 my way, eh? I could really use it. Just from a moral solidarity standpoint, I could really use it. Descriptions down below, my Patreon down below. Please, $1, right? $1. Okay, this is the end of me. Good luck, guys. Have fun. Go drink a beer. I'm about to go drink some beer. Good luck. We're gonna need it.